You can start.
Let's go over the story again. Okay, so we see that Louise has a heart trouble.
Yes.
So after a while in the story, her husband dies. So they have to be careful when they are telling her that her husband has died because of this
So
heart trouble.
her sister tried to be as calm, trying to calm her, and
But she didn't said that her husband died in a good way.
yeah,
She was like straight to the point.
Yes, and after that she firstly mourns him, but then she realizes that she's going to be free now that her husband is gone, and she's not married anymore, so she can be free.
Yeah, but she felt guilty because
Yeah.
she's feeling free, but her husband died.
just
Yes.
feeling happy because.
But it wasn't like in a bad way, because
No.
she knew that she was going to mourn his husband, but then she was going to feel free. But it wasn't like with a bad intention.
No.
But anyway, she felt guilty
Yes.
because she was feeling so happy that she could do anything that she wanted to.
Yeah, because her whole life she was for her husband.
Take care of him.
Yes.
Yes.
Doing everything for him. So now that her husband died, she could do things for her.
She had the opportunity to do what she wanted.
Yes, and then we see how she goes alone to her room and starts imagining how this future is going to be like now that she is free.
Yes.
But then her sister comes to tell her that she has to leave the room because she will be sick if she stays there. And they go downstairs and they see that she sees that her husband appears on the front door, and he had never died and he wasn't involved in the accident. So
She died because of
Yeah,
Yes.
because
had
she felt the pressure that she's going to be with him again, and she wouldn't be able to do what she wanted to.
yeah, so she died.
Yeah.
Very sad. And
I agree with what Mika said. I think that in the moment that she found out about her husband has died, at the beginning she felt kind of guilty because she was crying, but then they started thinking about that she was gonna be free
and
and
making plans.
very independent.
Yeah.
So I think she felt guilty at the beginning, but then she realized of the freedom that she's gonna have.
And according to the context of that time, there wasn't a lot of rights for women.
They were like
yes.
property of
Yes.
the husband.
When the women get married, they was a property, and when they have houses, a lot of property, when they get married, they lost all of the
And the
rights.
husband
And
would
the
be
husband, the
would
owner
become
of
the
yes.
owner.
the properties and the wife.
Yes.
Yes, it's interesting because it's interesting to see this type of story for the time that she was living on, because as you say, there was a lot of oppression against women, and to write this kind of stories was like a brave act, because she was like against the system in a time where
Actually,
you
in that
couldn't define the
time,
system.
Women didn't have
Voice.
voice. They couldn't vote in the election because they couldn't.
They were not
Just-
able to do that.
Yes, they weren't allowed.
The feminist movement hadn't even started yet. So
Yeah.
Yes,
That's a long time before that.
yes.
Actually.
yes.
Um,
So she was brave to write this kind of story in
Yeah.
that time where women were seen as objects and not as a free human being.
Actually, Kate Chopin was part of, was like in the beginning of the feminism thing, because she wrote many stories about, it was like similar to each other, because all the women were like to,
able to
to
do
serve the men, to be, I don't know how to say it, but women were supposed
To please men,
yes,
And she started to write things about love, sex, and
independence.
they were independent, and they were not like able to do that at that time.
yes.
Also, when her husband died, she started to write. So it's a way that showing that she started to feel
And
free.
actually, her husband died in a similar way of
Yeah,
the, yes,
the one of the story.
yeah.
I think that Kate Chopin tried to reflect their life, because in the moment that she wrote the book, it was a lot of oppressiveness in the marriages for the women, because they just have to live for men. So it was kind of a belonging for the men. So I think the story represents Kate's life.
What she had to do, because she had to take care of her children and her husband and not do what she wanted to do.
What do you
Yeah,
think?
I agree with Fernando. I think that she tried to like to reflect her own story through
And show
and
to
show
other
to the
people.
other people what she was living at the time and how oppressed she felt. And I think that this type of stories helped the world realize and make changes.
Yeah,
to start
because you
making
need someone
changes.
to tell you, like, oh, I'm not the only one who's suffering this, or
Yes.
who's living this.
So yeah, she was really brave by doing that, to speak out and have a voice, because in that time women didn't have voice.
But she always had like that sense of independence, because we can see that she liked, for example, walking by
Smoking.
herself alone,
Yes.
you know, and smoking. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we can see that she always had like that feeling, that sense of independence that she represents on her stories.
Yeah, that could be because Kate was brought up among women. So because her father died when she was 5 years old, I think.
Yeah.
So I think that this could be influenced in the way that she tended to write, because I think it was kind of the first step to the feminism movement.
Not only that, she was also
Yeah.
schooled by nuns.
By
so,
nuns, and she lived with women
Yeah.
her
So-
entire life.
There wasn't a man
in
Like,
her house,
yes.
or in her life actually.
yes.
Maybe she saw that they were maybe in a sense weak, and that she had to speak for them, writing these stories. Maybe that was her way of voicing what women needed at that time.
Anything else? What?
Well, I think that one of the main topics that we can see in this story is freedom, and I think that it was represented in the moment that the main character was in her room crying, looking through the window.
Yeah.
I think that window represents the
Freedom.
freedom, because it was an open window.
Yes. And there you can see
The beauty of the world.
the trees and all
Yeah.
The birds singing,
that. Yes.
people.
She felt
Showing
relief.
Life.
Yeah, life.
Life.
Enjoying.
It's like she saw life for the first time.
Yes.
Yes.
Lust for life.
Um,
What else?
compared, no?
Yeah.
So nowadays we can see that women have the right to vote. They could live alone,
And
taking care of their children alone.
or sometimes they don't need to get married and
Yes.
to be happy, and
They
it's
can
not
work.
what the society pets.
Yes, women
And-
can work.
Lots of women don't even want to get married.
Yes.
So
Yeah,
we
they-
can see now that women are fighting for their rights.
Yes.
And they are prioritizing their professional careers and studying and, you know, like making a life of their own.
And now they can do what men can do.
Yes.
So
There's an equality.
yeah, we're
Yeah.
looking for that.
Okay.
Maybe there's not a real equality,
But
in
we're
some
trying
aspects
to
In
there
some
are-
way.
Yes, in some way there have been
things
a
that
lot
have
of
been changing
yes.
for time.
But that's the reason why they keep fighting
Yes.
to have equality. Okay.
Three more. Go on.
Hi, Will.
Hi, miss.
Doesn't matter.
Reverse.
But I think you were finished, right?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah, you were
No.
finished. No?
No.
Ah, okay.
Okay.
Other
French
commercials.
Okay, so we can see that Kate was really ahead of her time, because now we can see that women have a voice and have rights, but in her time they didn't have that. So she was like one of the first women in
History.
in
And-
history interested in giving women a voice.
Yeah, and we think like this because we have heard and we have seen this, but she was like the one who created the equality, trying to find the equality between men and women. Anything to add?
That's it, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Now we're
finished. Now we're finished. So this is
Okay, so this